Welcome to the deep dive. We take your sources, articles, notes, research, whatever you send us, and boil them down to the core insights you can actually use. It's about getting you informed fast.
And today's sources, well, they've got this really interesting split personality almost.
Oh, yeah. How so?
On one hand, you've got these super detailed, almost like military-grade plans for getting control of your time, maximizing every minute, really practical stuff.
Okay, the efficiency angle.
Exactly. But then the other side is incredibly personal. Deep reflections on, family, connection,
Hmm.
things that really anchor us emotionally.
Right, so it's like managing the stopwatch and managing the heart. That's quite the balancing act.
It really is.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the best tips for working smarter, yeah, but also figure out how to invest that time we save into what actually gives life meaning. It's about structuring the hours and anchoring the heart.
Well put. Where should we start? The clock.
Let's start with the clock. Let's dive in and see how we can master time management first.
Okay, so looking at time management, the sources don't just list bad habits. They actually frame them as symptoms of deeper issues with how we prioritize.
Interesting. So what are these big mistakes, the things we need to stop doing, like right now?
Well, number one, pretty much universally debunked in these sources, is multitasking.
Ah, the myth of multitasking.
Totally. The idea that you can effectively do multiple demanding things at once, it just burns through mental energy, slows you down overall. Task switching is costly.
Okay, so stop trying to juggle everything. What's next?
The second big one is falling into the urgency trap.
Yeah.
Spending all day reacting to things that feel urgent.
Putting out fires.
Exactly. Putting out fires that pop up, but they aren't actually important. They don't move your real goals forward. You spend the day busy, but not productive.
And the third one you mentioned is kind of counterintuitive, especially when you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's failing to rest, skipping breaks.
Right, you think, I don't have time for a break.
hmm But the research here is clear. Taking proper breaks isn't a luxury. It's actually essential for keeping your performance high over the long haul. Skip breaks and your focus tanks, you work slower. It's just less effective.
Okay, so stop multitasking, don't just react to urgency, and actually take breaks. How do we fight back then? What's the structure?
Start simple. Get stuff out of your head, like make a to-do list. And the sources suggest doing it the night before.
Ah, so your brain isn't spinning on it overnight.
Precisely. Use your calendar properly for deadlines, set reminders, basic stuff, but critical foundation.
And there was a specific little rule mentioned for dealing with all the small stuff that piles up.
Yes, the 2-minute rule. This was great. If a task pops into your head
Yeah.
and you know it'll take less than 2 minutes to complete,
Do it immediately.
just do it right then and there. Send the email, make the quick call, file the paper. It stops those tiny things from cluttering your mind and your list later on. Reduces that background hum of unfinished business.
Okay, that handles the small stuff. But what about the big picture? How do you decide what deserves your focus across the whole day or week?
That's where the big gun comes in. The Eisenhower matrix.
Right, the 4 boxes. Urgent, important. Explain that a bit.
Sure. So you basically plot tasks on 2 axes, importance and urgency. This gives you 4 quadrants.
Okay.
Quadrant 1 is important and urgent.
Yeah.
These are your crises, your deadlines crashing down. Got to do these first. Firefighting.
Makes sense.
Quadrant 2 is important, but not urgent. This is the crucial one. Strategic planning, relationship building, learning new skills, exercise, things that matter long-term but don't scream for attention right now. You need to schedule these.
Got it. Important. Schedule it. What's quadrant 3?
Quadrant 3 is urgent, but not important. These are often interruptions, some meetings, requests from others that feel pressing but don't align with their core goals. The key here is delegate, if possible, or minimize.
The distraction.
Pretty much. Yeah. And finally, quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important. Time wasters, pointless scrolling, some busy work. You want to just eliminate these.
Yeah.
Or do them only when you truly have downtime.
Okay, I've tried using this matrix before, and sometimes just the act of categorizing everything feels stressful. Like, is this really urgent? Is it important enough? Did the sources talk about that?
They did, yeah. And the real insight wasn't just about using the matrix, but the mindset shift it enables. Effective time management, according to these sources, is actually less about cramming more in and more about deciding what you're not going to do.
Ah, intentional omission.
Exactly. Giving yourself permission to ignore or defer things, especially in quadrants 3 and 4. It's using the tool not just for productivity, but for, mental peace. Saying no to tasks frees up energy.
Okay, so we've got the matrix for prioritizing, but what about those huge projects, the ones that feel so big you don't even know where to start? They just loom over you.
Yeah, the sources had a clear tactic for that. I'll break it down. Seriously small, micro-chunking, basically.
So not write the book.
No, definitely not. It's outline chapter 1 this week. Or even smaller, write 500 words today. Or research sources for section 1 for 20 minutes. You take the mountain and turn it into a pile of small, manageable steps. And critically, you assign deadlines to those small steps too.
Makes sense. Small wins build momentum.
Right, and that momentum, that consistency, it's best protected by setting boundaries. Which brings us to the next big point in the sources, learning to say no.
Ah, the power of no. Easier said than done sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Overcommitting is like the silent killer of that important quadrant 2 time we just talked about.
Yeah.
You say yes to too many things, and suddenly your strategic work gets squeezed out.
So how do you say no without, offending people or seeming unhelpful? Did they offer specific phrasing?
They did. The trick is often to frame it around your existing priorities rather than just a flat refusal. So instead of just no, you might say something like, my schedule is fully committed with high priority tasks right now.
Okay, communicates focus.
Or, I want to give that the attention it deserves, and I can't do that today. Could we look at it next week? It shows respect for the request, but firmly protects your planned time.
That feels more collaborative, and protecting that time often comes down to routines, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Routines are like invisible structures that save you tons of mental energy. When something's a routine, you don't have to decide to do it each time.
Like maybe starting the day with 10 minutes of quiet planning.
Yeah, or having fixed times for checking email, say 11 a.m. and 4 p.m., instead of constantly reacting to notifications. That frees up huge chunks of focused time because the decision's already made. It's automatic.
And speaking of focus, the sources brought up another technique for structured work.
The Pomodoro technique. Yeah, this one's popular for a reason. You work in focused bursts, typically 25 minutes, then take a mandatory short break, like 5 minutes.
Right, the timer approach.
Exactly. It does a couple of things. It keeps you focused because you know it's only for 25 minutes. And it forces you to take those breaks we talked about earlier, preventing burnout. Makes daunting tasks feel less intimidating too because a break is always just around the corner.
Okay, before we move on from efficiency, we have to touch on perfectionism.
Ah, yes. The time sink.
Totally. It's a huge barrier for a lot of high achievers. We hear done is better than perfect, but actually stopping when something is just good enough, that's hard. Did the sources offer any way to fight that internal critic?
They did. The key takeaway is definitely still done is better than perfect. But they linked it specifically to, like, managing expectations in delivery.
How so?
They suggest asking yourself, what's the minimum viable output that still meets the core requirement? The argument is that delivering something solid, well-researched, and on time is almost always more valuable than delivering a theoretically perfect thing that's late.
So focus on hitting the deadline with something good rather than missing it, chasing perfection.
Exactly. Except good enough for this task, deliver it, and move your focus to the next thing. It's about momentum over flawlessness.
All right, so we've got tools and strategies for carving out time, for getting more efficient. Now we need to shift gears, right, to the why.
Yeah, this is where the sources pivot from managing the clock to, well, managing what truly matters. Investing that save time meaningfully. Moving from tasks to relationships.
From the structure of time to the anchor of the heart.
Beautifully put. And this section makes it clear, all the time management in the world is kind of pointless if it doesn't ultimately serve your deeper values, your connections.
So what are those core pillars, according to the sources?
They synthesize it down to the fundamentals. Love, respect, patience, forgiveness, trying not to judge. Pretty universal stuff. But they didn't just leave it as, like, nice feelings.
How did they make those values actionable? Did they mirror the kind of structure we saw with time management?
In a way, yes. They framed relationship work as the ultimate quadrant 2 activity. Remember, important, but not urgent.
Ah, okay. So it requires scheduling, intention.
Exactly. Just like you schedule project work, the sources argue you must schedule connection. It won't just happen. Strong families, strong relationships, they rely on consistent, often simple habits, like setting up ways to communicate better, especially when things get tense, really listening instead of just waiting to talk.
That makes a lot of sense. And we saw some really tangible examples of this relational scheduling in the notes, didn't we?
We did. Like the father who, no matter what, Always got up early to make breakfast.
Hmm.
It wasn't just about the food, right? It was this non-negotiable block of time where he was simply present. Scheduled presence.
Yeah, a daily ritual. And the grandparents, too.
Right. The grandmother baking bread every morning. That
Yeah.
smell, that consistency creates a feeling of home, of reliability, and the grandfather in the garden.
When you touch the soil, you touch life.
Such a great line. These weren't chores in the typical sense. They were scheduled moments of, like, groundedness. They set the rhythm for the family. These are intentional acts of connection embedded in daily life.
And they also talked about bigger traditions, the scheduled highlights.
Yeah, like the annual New Year's Eve party, always at home, cooking together, dad telling jokes, mom dancing, or the summer visits to the village. These weren't spontaneous. They were planned, prioritized, put on the calendar way in advance. True quadrant 2 relationship investments.
And importantly, the sources made a point of saying family isn't just blood relatives.
Yes, that was crucial. They really broadened the definition. Family is about who makes you feel safe, supported, loved. It could be close friends, mentors, neighbors, teachers. Your chosen family?
People who form your root system.
Exactly. And the same principles apply. You need to intentionally schedule time and effort to nurture those connections too.
Yeah.
They don't thrive on neglect.
And technology can actually help here, right? If used intentionally.
For sure. Video calls, messages, they can bridge the distance and help maintain those vital connections, making that scheduled connection time possible even when you're physically apart.
Okay, so we've explored these two big halves. Mastering time, anchoring the heart. How do we bring it all together? What's the synthesis?
The sources conclude pretty strongly that real productivity, sustainable productivity, demands work-life balance. And crucially, that balance isn't passive. It has to be actively managed.
Meaning, you don't just hope for balance, you schedule it.
Precisely. It means putting breaks, fun activities, exercise, time with loved ones, even just quiet time for yourself into your calendar with the same seriousness you schedule work meetings.
If it's not scheduled, it gets eaten up by the urgent stuff.
Almost always. And the point isn't just about feeling good, though, that matters. Taking care of yourself, recharging, connecting. It directly fuels your energy and focus when you do turn back to work. It's not separate from performance. It enables it.
There was that really poignant story about the grandfather after he got sick.
Yeah, that really started to crystallize the whole thing. He had this realization, this clarity that often comes after a crisis, unfortunately, that we spend so much of our lives chasing. Well, money, status, success.
The external stuff.
Right. And we can forget what actually underpins it all until something shakes us up.
And his core lesson, that metaphor.
Family is like a tree. You are one leaf, but you belong to the same root. It's powerful. The idea is that everything else, all the striving, should ultimately nourish that root system. The connections, the moments of care, the people who are home.
Wow. That really grounds everything.
It does. And it leads to perhaps the simplest, most immediate application from the sources. Something you can do literally any day, any time.
Which is?
Gratitude. Conscious, express gratitude. It sounds simple, maybe even cliche, but the sources highlighted it as a potent emotional investment.
The cheapest and fastest way to anchor the heart, you said earlier.
Pretty much. Just saying a genuine thank you or I appreciate you or even I love you. These are like those 2-minute tasks for your relationships. Small, quick, but they reinforce the connection. They brighten someone's day.
Little deposits in the relational bank account.
Exactly. And just like focused work compounds professionally, these small, consistent acts of care and appreciation compound relationally. They build resilience, warmth, trust. Hashtag tag outro.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's quickly recap the core takeaways we've pulled out for you. You need structure for your time. Tools like the Eisenhower matrix are key. You need the right mindset, remember? Done is better than perfect.
And crucially, you need to treat your relationships, your connections, your well-being as non-negotiable appointments. True quadrant 2 priorities. Anchor that heart.
Absolutely. And achieving this kind of integrated life, this balance, it takes practice, right? It's not a one-time fix.
Not at all. You're essentially learning skills here, how to manage time effectively and how to be intentionally present in your relationships. Like any skill, it requires patience, consistency, but even small improvements, practiced daily, will make a huge difference over time, both in what you achieve and how fulfilled you feel.
So we'll leave you with a final thought inspired by that emphasis on daily practice in the sources. What's one small intentional action you can commit to today? Will you finally schedule that important but not urgent task that keeps getting pushed back? Or maybe take 2 minutes right now to send a genuine message of gratitude to someone who's part of your root system.
Choose one. Make the investment. it matters.